Not really sure what this episode of Geek Shop is about. Oh yeah, it's blocks, writers, drawing, that kind of thing. So, let's take a walk to the Geek Shop. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Geek Shop. Today we're going to be talking about like a bad thing, but maybe how we overcome a bad thing. Today we're talking about mental blocks. With me, as always, is Jatan. Say hi, Jatan.
Hello.
So I think the best way to talk about this thing is I believe that this episode was inspired because Jatan sent me sort of a frantic text at one point with a half-finished drawing talking about, maybe we should do an episode on blocks. So Jatan, what was the block that got you inspired?
No, it was just once in a while, you're doing a page or a story or something like that, and you have all these ideas in your head. Then when you look at the page, nothing comes right.
Yeah.
And I was doing one of the prompts for our TikTok October prompt for October, and just went blank.
Yeah.
I had an idea what I want to do, but just could not put it down on a paper. And no matter, on a digital tablet, but no matter, the advantage of having an artist block and having a digital tablet is you're not wasting paper.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. So I think I personally come across two kinds of blocks. I come across the I have nothing block and the I have so much stuff in my brain block that I can't filter just one out on the page. I don't know if you're the same way or not.
Oh, yeah. And the worst part is, you have the idea in your head. That's the worst part. And just, how to put it down, you try hundreds of ways to, change the angle of the drawing, change this, change that. And it's still, you might look at my drawing and say, hey, this is great. But I look at it and go, nope, this is not working out. This is not working out.
Yeah. I think another common, we can talk about blocks too, but we can also talk about the fact that artists hate most of their drawings, and always look at the flaws. But when you're having a block, it's like amplified 100 times. So even your finished drawing, you end up oh, why did I even draw that?
Oh, definitely. And that's the worst part. That's, and you're right. Most artists will look at their work and say, I don't like this, I don't like that, coming back to it even 5 minutes later. But
Yeah.
the block part, yeah, it's just, it bunch of artists, and we've had this talk before, Tom Yo and some of the other guys, we've had, years and years we've had talks, and this is sometimes where, I don't know, if you want to get into it, we'll talk about, what do you do when you have an artist block?
Yeah, well, the other thing we should define is, do you consider blank page syndrome to be an artist block as well? Like when you have a comic book page and it's blank and it terrifies you, do you consider that a block as well?
Personally, I don't, no.
Okay.
Personally, for me, it's like having a blank page and, drawing on it and drawing on it and drawing on it and keep erasing or deleting over and over again. That's where it gets right. The blank page is just my mind just going, you know what? How do I put this down? And, I'm overthinking it. But the part where you're constantly erasing or deleting, that's the hard part.
Yeah, I agree, because a lot of people talk to me about like the blank canvas being a problem, but the first thing I tell people is make a mark. So like for comic books, I actually find blank page syndrome is almost non-existent, because if you want, you can put your boxes in, like your panels, and then that eliminates the blank page syndrome immediately, because then you're like, okay, what am I going to put in this panel? And it's that's what sort of, I actually specifically do not do all my panels on my comics until I do each page, so that way I'll never have blank page syndrome, because I'll be like, the first thing I do is I have a pencil and I'm just drawing lines, and so that way if I have to do that first, and that gets that's enough to get me out of blank page problem. So I agree with you 100%. Like I think the real problem is blocks. Like you just can't, like you erase,
That's
you
it.
draw.
And the blank page one is you have the ideas, you know what you want to do, everything, and it just, like you said, putting down the first mark is where, that's what's holding you up. It's not the, your mental, your mental block, or,
Yeah.
you yeah, like I said, you put your mark down, then you erase it, and how many more times do you put that mark down and erase it? That's
So
where
I
it
mean,
gets frustrating.
for me, the other problem with that is, of course, you end up to the point where you have so many marks on the page that you can't even use that paper anymore.
Oh, I've done that. No, I've used it, and I've seen, Tom, you and I have been talking. We talked about this a while back, where sometimes we'll look at the original art we've done, or even other creators have done, and you go, look at the eraser marks, or look at the whiteouts. It's like
Yeah,
like almost half an inch of whiteout on it. It's like it.
exactly.
I mean, on the other hand, it's great to see because you think, what, am I the only one who's having this? Then when you see professionals and they have, tons of whiteout on it, it's like, okay, this
Yep.
person's gone through the same process as we have.
Yeah, I agree. That one of the things. Like, it's funny. A lot of people ask me why I like to see original art, and part of it is inspiration and sort of seeing what they're doing and techniques and all that. But definitely a big part of it is just to feel good that they also made mistakes.
That's it. Yeah. Tom and I were talking about, I bought Joe Kubert's Anime Ace book. And, in that one, you see a lot of whiteouts, a lot of erasing marks. Then I bought Kevin O'Neill League of Extraordinary Gentlemen book, artist edition, and in that one, that guy's perfect. It's like no whiteouts, nothing. Meanwhile, Joe Kubert had whiteouts and everything, and that's what I want to see, because you're
Yeah.
right. It's like you want to see that.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. The other, I mean, I guess we'll talk about this. I mean, you do mostly digital now, so and I guess you can. There's sort of a similarity, but for me, it's like I start with a very light blue pencil, go to a darker blue pencil, and then I ink on top of my sort of darker blue pencils. So I tend to find that, like, the stage where I have the biggest blocks tends to be at the dark pencil stage, sort of my secondary pencil stage, because that's the part where I'm like, I can't get a pose right, or I can't figure out how I want this particular panel to be laid out. Generally, I find in the light pencil stage, I'm literally doing stickmen, so to some degree, I don't really
Yeah, same
care.
here. Same here. I'm in the same process. It's the, stickman to the final process. The middle part is where, yeah, you're right. You'll doodle it over and over again. Sometimes I even for digital, I'll have a piece of paper on the side and I'll start doodling on the side to see, how should I do this? How should I do that? You find
Yeah.
other ways of trying to help you out.
One of my biggest frustrations, though, and this has happened to me a couple times, is you'll be in a block, and so you'll say, like, okay, I'll pull out my sketchbook and I'll just try some sketches, and then instantly you go in the sketchbook and the first sketch is perfect, and you're like, why couldn't
Oh
I
yeah,
do that on the page?
that's
What's
it.
wrong with
Yes.
me? Why is it perfect there and I can't do it here?
Which is 100% true. It's happened to me like that. Now, this is a thing, and I'm guilty of it. And maybe if I still had that photo, I'll show you the photos of mine and Tom Yo's, where, you get to a point where nothing's going right. And this is when I was doing drawing on comic boards. And you rip that sheet of paper in half, or hundreds of pieces, start
Yeah.
all over. Then you rip it again, It's like, you're at the point where you don't even want to erase anymore, You just want to start completely fresh.
I also find that you get to a point when you just can't erase anymore. Like, you've scratched up the paper so badly, you've generally, I find when you have a block, at least for me, the pressure of the pencil gets a little harder on the paper. And
It does.
so
It does.
erasing that is impossible. Like, it's etched in the paper. And so, like, even trying to erase it at a certain point, and you can use whiteout, but drawing on top of whiteout is never as good. And after, like,
No,
if
no.
you drew on a complete sheet of whiteout, that would be impossible. That'd be like trying to draw on a skating rink because it's so slick.
But let me ask you this: what's worse, erasing and having so much deep pencil marks, or just having one mark and then you're ripping the paper in half because you're so frustrated?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know if I've done sketches where I've ripped papers in half, like just been like, forget it. I don't think I've done a page. I've done pages where I think the most I've gone is like I've given up on a panel so much that I've actually cut out another piece of paper and glued it on.
See,
And just,
I
I'm
don't
like,
even go that far of a stage because I'm at the point where I'm just, if I have that block and nothing's working out, I'll just redraw everything.
yeah, I think I'm too precious about some of my drawings, so I'm always like, well, that part worked, so I don't want to screw that up. So, I'm still too precious about my artwork that way. But digitally, I have had a couple times where I've roughed out a page and started to rough it out more and more, and then literally just deleted that entire layer of drawing and been like, nope, nothing's working, start again.
Okay, mentioning that, and this is I've done this where you get so frustrated, you delete the file, you delete the page, then you realize you deleted the whole file, and going, I didn't save it. Have you
Yeah.
done that? Okay.
I don't know if I've done it that much. I have deleted because I'm a stickler for backups. So I have backups of backups of backups. So like
Oh
as
no,
soon
I'm
as
the same way, but in the frustration, you're just like, screw it. I'm just gonna delete this and realize, oops, I didn't save
yeah.
the last stuff I did like 20 minutes ago. You know.
Yeah, I've had that with not as much with full files, but I've had layers. Like I'll be drawing on a because I'll draw on top of. Generally, I have my boxes or my backgrounds will be a layer, and then my characters will be another layer. So when I'm sort of sketching out the characters, I'll be like, I'll get so frustrated, I'll delete them all, and then realize there's other stuff that I wanted on that I like lost forever, and it's like, well, okay, got to start from scratch again. So it's amazing what you'll do in rage or in frustration when you're drawing and you just can't get that pose right. So the one thing I want to ask you about blocks in this case is, and maybe I always feel this is maybe imposter syndrome at the same time, but I always feel like sometimes I have an idea for a pose that I want to draw, or like, I want to draw this guy punching a guy, and I should be able to draw somebody punching a guy. I've been drawing long enough, but I just can't. It doesn't look right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel like maybe there might be like young artists that are watching this that think, oh, these guys are like pros, they can just sort of draw whatever they want. But it's like the number of times I've like, it's in my head, the pose, but I just can't get it on the piece of paper.
Oh, I've done that hundreds of times, and I don't want to give it away. But when you look at some of my panels and stuff, and maybe you guys might not pick up on it. I'll look at it and go, that was the panel I could not get this pose right, or this, like you said, punching right.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hell with it. I'm moving on. And Tom, you and I had this talk where certain times, let's say punching someone, if you can't get that pose right, do your best and just move on. you know,
Yeah, that's actually a good tip.
that's Tom and I. This is Tom Yo from our TikTok Tom book, and we've always had this talk. We all, where it's like certain times you have to just say, put it away and move on.
Yeah, I've even had times where I've had a bad time with a panel, moved on, and then I go back to it because one thing is I tend to do like my style of it, and I think most people would like this. I tend to do my really roughs all the way through. So my light blue line, I'll do the entire book in the light blue, then go sort of my tighter sort of darker blues. I'll do the entire book, and then I do my inking the entire book. So I do it like in stages like that. Like I won't go from like light blue to ink in one sitting. I do like, I sort of do each stage of it. And I found sometimes that I will have trouble with one. I'll sort of move on, then I'll go back to it later, and suddenly the solution will come to me.
See,
Just because I've done beyond
I
it.
used to do that where I used to come back to the pages when I was doing hand drawings or digital. I used to come back to it, and in the last couple of years, I mentally forced myself, leave it alone, don't touch it, because it's that whole thing. And this is the joke a lot of us joke about, is doing the George Lucas thing. Coming back and changing
Yeah.
it, and how much do you really change? And you know what, as artists, like you said, you do a page in 5 minutes, you look at it and you don't like it, and you could redraw,
That's
you
true.
could change a lot of it. And here's the bad part, especially about digital now. Doing corrections and stuff, you could do a lot more corrections on digital than you could do on the regular page. You don't have to pull out the whiteouts and erasers and all that stuff. Where digital, you could, hate to say it, one panel you could spend the whole day coming back and forth on it, and you have to have that limitations where control on yourself and say, you know what, stop. The main word is stop.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The other thing that digital, and I mean, this even works for me. I mean, I do ink and pen for my page, but I bring it into digital for coloring and any touch-ups. And one of the things that I sometimes will do is, sometimes I also find that I've had trouble with a panel, but if I actually resize it, sometimes like, or a character in it, like I'll make a character bigger or smaller, it can fix it. And so that's one of the advantages of digital is, not even just redrawing or retouching up, but you can kind of go through and go, wait a minute, if I take this character and shrink it or make it bigger or something like that, it can.
That's funny because I've done
fix
that.
it.
I've done that where I've zoomed in, or I'll take the pencil layer and just zoom it in and say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to ink this part. Forget about the.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're sitting here feeling guilty like this is cheating, but to be honest, I think recognizing on how to fix that problem is part of what it is of being a storyteller and an artist. And so I don't think it's cheating at all. But for some reason, I think in the back of our brains, we think this is cheating
That's it.
the
Yes.
system.
You're taking a shortcut.
It's
You're taking a shortcut, which you shouldn't be, but you know what? You have to.
And sometimes it works. Like sometimes it genuinely makes it good.
Oh, it does. It does. So now that brings up a question. When you have a artist block, I was about to say writer's block, but artist block, what do you do to solve it?
I mean, the first thing I might do, like we were sort of talking about moving on. That would be like one of the options I would do. The other option is just stop drawing for like, even if it's like take a 20-minute walk, watch a half-hour TV show, just do something that's going to take you out of it. Because I find walking or watching something sort of inane or stupid, something that you don't have to concentrate on, sometimes ideas will come to you and you'll sort of go, okay, now I know how to solve this, and you'll get back and be excited about trying to fix it. But I think probably the number one thing I do is I move on. If it's a big writer's block, like if it's actually affecting my entire story, I'll stop working on that story and I will start working on another thing. Because with Blue Orchid, I always have two projects going at the same time. I always have like the main chapter, and then I do these smaller stories as well that sort of I attach to them. Like I had the fire monster one where just that fire monster chasing her through the street and things like that. So I might start working on one of those, and just to get those out and finish those, and just to sort of change my pattern. Or I might just do a doodle, like I might just draw Incredible Hulk or the Flash or something, just to clear my mind of drawing, of what I was drawing.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
So that's probably my best thing. Yeah. How about you?
For me, what I do the same thing. I'll walk away. From the page, and like you, sometimes I'll just find something totally opposite to do, like watch TV or play video games, or just something to do. And other times, then when before I come back to the page, what I'll do is I'll pull out, and again, this is a conversation I've had with other artists, where I'll go and pull out books of my favorite artists, or now with digital, internet, look online, but mostly I'll pull out artists I really like, and I reread their stories, look at the artwork, go for it, put it away, and go to the page and see if that helps. Help your trigger that block, and say, okay, you know what? Now I looked at this guy, that this person's work, that person's work, or even watching a movie or a TV show or playing, like I said, video games. Or get your mind away from it.
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm having troubles, not with the story in general, but like trying to find a good pose. So like we were saying before, like, you want your character to throw a good punch. Sometimes I'll literally Google comic book punches.
Oh, I've done that also.
And just scroll through.
Yeah.
Scroll through and just be like, is there something here? Like, and I know, it's like swiping a pose, but it's like, is there somebody here who's done this punch? Or I also look up kung fu poses a lot. And I'll just be like, okay, is there somebody here who's already done this right? Or is there a photo of this that's sort of what I want, and then I'll just take that and use that as a
Yeah,
reference.
that's it.
Because
Yeah,
often it'll be like,
that's
it,
it. That's perfect.
So
Yeah.
a reference is a great way to sort of, if it's a pose problem or like a layout problem, I'll literally just Google, you know, whatever the sort of thing is, guy throwing punch, on Ice Monster, and you'd be surprised how many of everything there is on the internet. And then suddenly, or guy throwing punch at monster, and then I'll just look through them and scroll through them until I find something. I'm like, okay, this is sort of what I want. This is the idea I want. Whatever can inspire me to, draw that. So
Now, just to
pretty good.
just on my personal point of my personal experiences, sometimes I'll do whatever everything I said to get away from the block, but I'll look at the artist's work and stuff like that, and I'll read. Sometimes I'll let's say I'm gonna give an example. Let's say Jimmy Hernandez. I'll look at his work, and sometimes I'll go through like 5 or 6 of his books, you know, then sit down, and then next I'll get another artist book, look through it. Then on my desk, like behind me here, you'll see a bunch of books because you know what? When I have a block or when I need inspiration, I look through those books. And sometimes it helps, but I'll be honest with you, there's times where you look at it, you come back to a page, and you still don't know what to do, And it's one of those
Yeah.
things where, and the best advice, and I've learned this over the years, is walk away from it, put it away for at least a couple of days to a week. Seriously. And
Yeah.
don't even look at that page. Don't even look at that,
Yeah.
Stop thinking about it.
Yeah, just stop entirely.
But the problem is,
But
oh, sorry?
I was going to say the problem is sometimes you stop and then you never come back to it.
That's another one. And also the other part is it scares you to death because you're like, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
It's been 3 days. I can't do this. I can't do this,
Yeah, yeah. Although I find, we could get into whole sort of mental health of an artist, but I find that sometimes outside factors can affect your ability to work on a page. So like if you've got stress from like, other things from, you got mortgage payments, you got, somebody sick in your family, you're not getting enough sleep, like all of that can truly affect your ability to concentrate on a page and to put something down. And I've had many times where it's been like, I'll realize it's like, why can't I draw anything? It's like, well, I've only been getting 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. Maybe that's the problem.
But here's the worst part is usually you draw to get away from all of that stuff. And that's the
Yeah.
scary part, where that's affecting your drawing also. Usually it's your escape.
It is, but I find sometimes like, obviously it depends on those are situations where it's like, well, first of all, physical situations, like you're not getting enough sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep,
Oh, that's going to affect you, yeah.
that's going to affect you no matter what. And that's, you just need to get more sleep. And trust me, sleep a bit more and you'll be drawing fine later on. But other stresses, it gets to a point when there are certain stressors where it's just like, you've got to, they're going to affect you no matter what. And there's no sort of escaping them. Like they're just bigger than, than minor little problems. And that's what's, causing you. And you can try and get away from withdrawing, but maybe drawing something that you don't have to focus on would be the better bet. Like do like just a doodle,
Yeah.
fill up a page full of randomness.
Like you said
is a better
earlier
way to
about
go
just
in
pull
that
out a
case.
sketchbook and start sketching in that.
Yeah. So that's what I find. It tends to be like sometimes writing a comic book is it is a lot like work. And in some cases, in some of the work we've both done, it is work.
Oh, it is. It is.
And so to some degree, it's like your brain does, your brain wants to draw, but maybe your brain doesn't want to work draw.
Oh, that's it. And you know what? And sometimes when you have the block and you overcome it, I've had it where I'll do a full 20-page story in a week. Then
Yeah.
when you get the artist block, you can't do anything for a week, 2 weeks sometimes, or longer, And it's
Yeah.
it's hard to explain, but it's just your mind's thinking differently on both situations where when you're really creative you could produce so much work, but when you have that
I don't
block
know about you, but
sorry.
yeah. I was gonna say I don't know about you, but I tend to get those unclogged, crazy amounts of like energy and being able to do a lot of work right after a mental block.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you'll be so blocked up you can't do anything. You stop, you walk away, you do this, and then like you spend, like you said, like 2 or 3 days you just walk away from it, and then you come back after those 2 or 3 days, you're hungry to do it, and man, that's when suddenly you're producing 20 stories in a week or two.
I think what you just said. I think it's a reach. We need a recharging. You know.
Yeah.
Recharging or refueling. Honestly, it's like, you know what, we've been burnt out, or it's like our phones. We every night we need to recharge it, and I think that's the same thing with our artist blocks. It's something where we just
Yeah.
need to set aside and just let our brains recharge completely.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. I think you have to recharge your brain and recharge your mind and all that, and it's so important. So we've been talking about getting mental blocks, and so I just to close this off, how do you prevent mental blocks? Is there anything that like you feel like, particularly? I think when I was younger, I didn't know how to do it, but I think maybe now I have a couple of tricks that I do to stop from getting blocks. Do you have any for yourself?
At this age, I would say, you know what, you learn more than I have. So no, no.
Well,
I'll be
one of
honest
the-
with you. It just, yeah, it comes to me, and when it comes to me, yes, at this age, I should have figured out a way to block it. Block the block, but no.
I'll tell you, it's funny. We've actually sort of been talking about it, but I actually do a lot of the mental block breakers regularly. So every Wednesday morning, I don't draw. I get out of my house and I walk for 2 or 3 hours every Wednesday morning. And no matter what, I have to do it. And I go out and I take my camera with me. So sometimes I get pictures for references for the comic, and I look around because a lot of my comic, it takes place sort of, in the areas where I'm living in Southeast Asia. So every Wednesday morning, and I'm actually going to start doing it Saturday mornings too now, for like 2 or 3 hours, I go out for a walk, and it's like, no matter how much I want to draw, no matter how much I want to work on something, that 2 or 3 hours is dedicated to not drawing. And it's dedicated to going out and just sort of wandering around. And whether it's wandering around and working through stories in my head, or whether it's going out and finding like bits of inspiration for like, the world around me, for like backgrounds and things like that, no matter what that is, that's what I do. So that's one of the things I do for sure, is I carve off
Okay,
every
that's
week.
great. That's great advice. Honestly, that's great advice.
Yeah, so it's like rather than having to wait till I'm blocked and can't do anything, I say to myself, okay, let's shut it off. It's Wednesday morning, go for that walk, walk around the neighborhood, walk around wherever, like, whatever it is. And that's funny, I actually have a group of people that we now do it all together.
Now, here's a
And-
question: Do you touch any sketchbook paper or anything like that, or just completely stay away from it?
No, I don't bring any drawing materials. I bring my camera, just because if I see
Perfect,
something
perfect. That's what I was
gonna
gonna
inspire
say.
me.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes.
gonna say. Maybe that's a great advice. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
So it's just like go to a walk around, get out for like 2 or 3 hours if you can, or even an hour. Like I hear a lot of artists that sort of like before they go drawing, they go walking. Like when you're doing a profession, even when I work at animation studios, I tend to like at lunchtime every day, I'll bring a sandwich to work, and I will go out for an hour and I will just walk for an hour. Even
Oh,
for
wow.
my lunch hour is a walk with a sandwich. And it's just to like, and I'll go different parts of the city, whatever, when I was working in Toronto or wherever I am, and I'll get out. And when I was in any place I've ever worked, I tend to be like my lunch hour, I'll take my hour, I bring a sandwich, and if I've got to like create animation or anything for anybody for that hour, I'm just wandering around, and every single
That's
time.
it. You're watching. Brings up that's okay. No, that's thank you. That's great advice. Now I'm gonna ask anyone who's watching this video. Let us know what you do to get away from your block. Chris's advice was great. I want to hear more advice like that.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
I mean, let's help each other out, because you know what? Seriously, like I said, at my age, why didn't I think of that? It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is just like, and it sounds silly, but like health. I mean, when you're younger, you don't worry about it as much, but when you're older, just the idea of making sure you get enough sleep, making sure you're
Oh yeah,
eating properly.
definitely. Yeah.
You know, things like that. Like if your body feels a little bit better, then sometimes your block is actually just your shoulder in pain because you've been grinding at it for so many
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. The sleep part is the main thing, and it's yeah. And you know what? One thing I find that helps me is, you know, having coffee, tea, or water. Just it helps me think. If I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the page and not what to do, I'll finish a cup in like 10 minutes.
yeah,
And then it helps me think. Not just saying caffeine helps me think, but even water. Just having something like that.
yeah. My boss at the animation studio when I worked in Toronto used to take, if he noticed that everybody was kind of feeling down and sort of out, because sometimes when you're in a group working on a project, everybody gets blocked at the same time. Like it just sort of spreads like wildfire. And so he used to take us to the driving range, to the golf driving range.
Oh, really?
And he would take us, and it's fantastic because it loosens your body up entirely, like the motion. And it's a driving range, so it's not like real golf where you have to like aim for a little hole. You're just whacking the ball, like
whacking
that's
the
it.
ball. Yeah.
And it's great. And that was another thing that if I'm really stressed out, I'll try and find a driving range and be like, go to a driving range. It loosens. So if your body is sore, it stretches you out, and if your mind is sore, you're just wailing on golf balls. And you don't have to be good at golf to do it. You can be horrible at golf and go to the driving range. So
No, but see, all what you just mentioned, all of these ideas. Now I want to hear from everyone else, out there, saying,
for sure,
what do you guys do? What do you guys do to overcome this?
yeah.
And you know
sure.
what? And any artist who says they haven't gone through this, I hate to say nothing against you guys, but you guys are liars. Everyone,
dirty, rotten liars.
Everyone has gone through this.
And it never gets better. Like it's not something that you can be doing this forever. And I'm sure Jack Kirby had days where he had a pose where he's like, "What the hell?" You know what I mean?
Oh, probably. I'm sure. Yeah.
So it's like
And
it's not
and I have seen artists on on videos and not videos but photos and stuff old days where I have seen some of the pages ripped and stuff like that. So I'm going, is this one of those things?
Yeah, and it goes back to the beginning of what we were talking about. Look at original art and look at all the whiteout. That's
yeah.
That's it right there. So, for sure. So I think we can wrap this episode up and hopefully people get some mental health over this, and I think we even got some mental health over this. And hopefully the other thing you can do is what Tan did to me, and you reach out to your friends who are artists too, and even reach out to us. We'll help you with if you have a mental block, drop us a comment and we'll try and help you through your mental block.
And actually, that's perfect advice, because one thing I find is mental block. Soon as artist block, especially sometimes talking to other creative people. Again, like you said, you don't have to talk about drawing. Just call someone up and just talk to them. Again, mental health, it helps.
And maybe start a podcast with them and talk about your mental health problems, like we are doing.
That's it.
Here.
Yes. See, it's good therapy, cheap therapy for us.
Exactly. So, I think we can wrap this episode up. So, say some nice last words to encourage all those people out there in mental blocks, Tan.
Just keep drawing. Don't stop.